Hey guys, welcome back. We are now moving on to the timing side of the engine. In the last video, we installed the camshafts and got all of that figured out and checked the clearances. Now we're going to be getting the timing set right and put on the timing chain and the cover. First thing you want to do is, remember this timing mark here. It's at top dead center when it's 90-degree angle, but the book says when you install the timing chain, you want everything rotated just a little after top dead center, because once you have the timing chain wrapped around and the tensioner pushes in on the chain, it makes everything twist. And if you don't preemptively advance your timing, then when you do the timing chain tensioner, it's going to make everything go into the retard position. So for the crankshaft, there's the little mark. Put your wrench on it, and you're going to rotate it clockwise to where this little circle right here, see that circle? You can see the parting line between the crankshaft cap and the engine block is going right in the center. See that? So rotate it. See how the mark is a little further down, but in the book it shows that little image of that circle half and half. Now on this one, that dot is your timing mark. Normally it's straight up and down, but it says advance it 2 teeth. So normally that tooth is at the top. I rotated it till not this one, but the next one is at the top. So just skip one. You can see that tooth is lining up with the dot. Now that one's at the top. So for this one, here's your timing mark. Right now it's at the top, but because it's under valve spring tension, the book shows this circle right here to advance it until you see the little tooth thing in the middle of the circle like that. But when I take the ratchet off, oh, it stayed. Before it actually spring loads back into place. Oh yeah, there you go. See that? That spring tension screws it up. So if it'll stay there, great. But oh yeah, there you go. It goes back. So when I'm putting the timing chain on, I'm going to have 2 hands and hold it in this position as I put the paint coated timing chain link over that tooth. But anyways, that's where you want these to be at this step. Next, we're going to install the right side timing chain guide, and you're going to do, so here's looking down, you got this big hole here, it's just kitty corner down. And then you've got this mounting hole right here, not the top one, this one. But you see how the guide's got 2 holes, so you're like, well, which one? You just check with your old one. It was mounted on the bottom one. So the bottom one is going to go like this, and then that's going to go like that. And then I saved the 2 little bolts I had from the tear down. And we're going to torque those to 80 inch-pounds. Here's the timing chain tensioner slipper is what they call it. It slides onto this rod right here on the bottom. Like so. Okay, here's a brand new OEM timing chain. It's got 3 links that are painted. These 2 orange ones are for the timing teeth on the sprockets, on the camshaft sprockets, and the yellow one is for the crankshaft sprocket. Now, you see how the timing dot is right next to a tooth. That tooth needs to go right in the middle of the yellow. There you go, like that, as we're putting it on. Okay, that would have been a very boring video clip, but as you can see, timing marks are lined up, top dead center, and then this one's on that one. So remember, these 2 are torqued already. You don't ever want to spin those counterclockwise and make them come loose. It was necessary to have to sit there and twist them back and forth to tweak these, so use a crescent wrench on those back parts back there. And you're gonna, at first I had a lot of loose chain over here, and it just didn't seem like it kept wanting to skip a tooth here, but you have to carry all the slack over and around to this side, because look at how loose that is. So you gotta kind of fiddle with it to keep it, you know, tight, because it wants to fall off right here. See that? And it kept wanting to jump off the tooth. There you go, see? So keep it on those timing marks. Make sure it's tight. And then all that extra looseness is taken up by that guy. Okay, here's the new hydraulic tensioner and the old one. The plunger is extended out all the way, and the new one should come with this safety pin that you pull out after you install it, so don't pull that out. So that's how the new one will sit, like that. Install the 2 bolts, torque those to 80 inch-pounds. Okay, now we pull out the safety pin plunger thing, and it should take up all the slack. One more time, make sure the timing marks are where they should be. Okay, here we go. That was it. Okay, now get a 19mm socket, put the crankshaft pulley bolt in, and we're going to do a rotation test and go slow. Remember, this is not a valve friendly engine, which means when the valves are open, and if, say, the timing chain broke, when the piston comes up, it's going to smack the valves and damage the engine. So rotate everything just slow and gentle. We're just checking for interference or binding, because this should rotate freely. Actually, I'm going to use the crescent wrench on this part. So one thing you're going to run into, and don't freak out about it, is as you're rotating everything, you're going to notice that your paint marks on your timing chain don't line back up with the timing marks. And that is normal, because those timing marks are for initial install only. Because of the ratios, which I don't know, don't even want to think about what the ratios are, but as everything's rotating, you're going to notice your paint marks and timing marks are not the same anymore, but that's okay. It was that you only need to worry about that when you first install the belt. So here's an example. The timing mark is no longer on the dot, but the dot is in its top dead center spot. So we know the piston's at the top. Here's the timing marks on the pulley, even though the paint mark's gone. This one ended up lining back up. There's that one over there. But the fact that the timing marks are where they should be, and we know the piston's up, and you look at the camshafts, the lobes are in the air. So you know that the valves are closed because it's not pushing down on them. So that tells us the timing is good. Hello guys, we are now moving on to putting the timing chain cover on. Yes, the engine is in my house. Special thanks to the wife, Robin, for letting me do this in a temperature controlled environment. Outside is 28 degrees, it's freezing, and there's a recommended temperature range for the silicone for it to cure properly. So kind of didn't have a choice, or otherwise I gotta wait till springtime. But anyways, there's a checkoff list I made for this step. 9 things to make sure. Actually, there's 10 things. I forgot to put the Allen key plug on the original timing chain cover. Let's just say that that's step 1. Remove the old one from the other cover, and you can install that using the seal packing sealant before you put it on. So other than that, let's move on to number 1. Is the timing... Oh, first off, pause the screen and print this. This is your pre-flight checkoff list before putting that chain cover on there and torquing it. Number 1, is the timing chain lubricated? I took some break-in oil in a cup and then just dipped a brush in it and just lightly put some oil all the way around so it can soak into those links for that first initial dry start. Because when the engine starts, you're hoping everything's going to work right, and you're hoping there's a prime, and the oil comes out this little squirter right here and squirts oil down on the sprocket and lubricates the chain. So oil's just flinging around everywhere in here. But it's a good idea to have that lubricated because it's meant to be lubricated. So once you do that, it might drip a little bit, and as you can see, mine did a little. So I'm going to let that drip overnight just to make sure there's no excess, because you cannot have oil getting on this sealing surface once you torque it. It says to make sure that the silicone stuff is not in contact with oil for at least 2 hours. So, timing chain lubricated, yes. Is the oil pump primed? So here's your new timing chain cover. If you're gonna go brand new, make sure you get one that has the oil pump included. There's the oil pump section. You look in the middle of the circle here, there's these flat points within the gear. See how it can spin? Those flat points key onto the crankshaft. And when the crankshaft spins, that's what spins that gear. This is the suction hole at the bottom. Oil goes in there and it pushes it out here. So on the engine, it's sucking it out of the pan here into the oil pump, sends it in here into your oil filter throughout the rest of the engine. So what I did is lay it flat, and I dumped some break-in oil in there and in there. Then I took my fingers and just rotated the gear until I felt it like firm up and can tell everything's coated in there. Then prop the cover up somewhere where the oil can drain out. And let it drip dry as long as it takes. Give it 2 or 3 days if that's what it takes, so there's no more residue coming out. So you do not want oil running out, interfering with that silicone seal. After that, are the surfaces clean? So I haven't cleaned mine yet, but you need to clean the sealing surface, which is all the way around here. And then you got to do a circle around the water pump area and then all the way to the top. Same thing on the cover, even though this is brand new, all the way around here, all the way down and around. And then that's a sealing point right there. That's a sealing point right there. And then you've got where you're going to have 2 O-rings seal right there. Okay, do you have the correct sealant? And do you have enough sealant? So you need to pick at this point what type of antifreeze you're going to run in your engine. If you're going to use the OEM stuff, the Toyota stuff that's either like pink or red, you need to get a special silicone called 1282B, B as in boy, because the OEM coolant can eat normal silicone. And so you'll have that 1282B that you put around like this, and then everywhere else you're going to use the regular seal packing 103 or equivalent. The equivalent is this stuff, 1207B, and this is ASIN. This is the OEM stuff. I got it just as extra, just in case. I'll probably return a couple of those, but yeah, that stuff's good. I could probably use that on my Tahoe too. So anyways, I am sticking with the universal green stuff. I switched to that years ago on our Echo. Haven't had any problems. I'm going to put a link in the description that can educate you on different kinds of antifreeze. Basically, it's longevity. The universal green stuff works. You just have to change it more frequently. It's cheap. That's what I used. I'm going to stick with that. That way I can just stick with the 103 everywhere. I don't have to mess with that 1282B stuff. The 1282B is super expensive. On average, I've seen it range from like $65 to $100 just for one of these, for that 1282B. So take your pick. Next, see if it'll focus. Do you have the two O-rings? The O-rings go in these grooves right here and right there to seal the oil pump. So that's the little one. They've got little teeth on them, so it helps hold them in place. And that's the big one. These are brand new. Also, the new oil pump seal, which goes on the outside. And I'm not installing that until after this is installed, so I can have a visual of those flat points when I'm installing this. Next are the bolt holes labeled on the cover. So I'm going to pause the screen right here, and you can print this map showing where the different bolts go, and they're labeled A, B, C, D, E, I think, and the torque specs. I'm going to get a Sharpie and actually write next to each hole what letter bolt goes there and the torque spec. Once it's all torqued, you can take rubbing alcohol and clean it off, and that'll just make it easier for me. Are the bolts cleaned and ready? And then the bolt label chart. So here's the bolts. I haven't cleaned them yet. I'm going to. They are different lengths, so that's why I'm going to make a bolt chart where you label each bolt A, B, C, D in the right columns. They're laid out and ready to go. And then do you have the sealant map? I'm going to pause for that as well. The sealant map shows where you put sealant on this thing. And it shows like where you put the 103, and then the 1282B would go around like this. I'm doing 103 over everything, but you're going to want that picture as your guide showing you where to put the silicone. And basically the rule of thumb is put the silicone on the inside of the holes. You don't want to put silicone on the outside because then oil can get in here and leak out. So it's always safer to the farthest in lip. Same with the water pump. And then the oil pump key in the correct position. So that's those flat spots. I recommend practicing doing a dry fit, putting it on dry and making sure that those flat spots are in the correct position. And you also get familiar with how it goes on, especially where you got these studs you got to watch out for. And then you can do it right the first time when it's live and you got the silicone on there. So that's the preliminary pre-flight checklist. Let's move on to doing the real thing. All right, you guys, I am ready to put on the sealant and stick this on. I've got drill attachments for the bolts. You're only going to need a 10mm and a 12mm socket. This is just to quickly seat the cover with the silicone, and then I can go through and get them to torque. I'm gonna mount these top ones first and zip those in, and then I'm gonna squeeze in these bottom 3 so that pressure seals on these O-rings, so if there is any chance of oil leaking out of the pump, it's stopped by the O-ring. Same right here too. So there's not really a set order. They say to always alternate, but because this is silicone and it's just sandwiching on, I don't think it's a big deal. The book just says you've got a 15-minute window to torque it once you get the silicone on there. So you got to be somewhat quick, but you don't have to be crazy. So as you can see, I do have the O-rings in. Those are ready to go. First thing I'm going to do is put the silicone in those leak points right there, and then put it on the cover and then stick it on. Okay, so I'm starting with a new tube. I cut the hole to be about the same width as the gap it's given me, but first thing first, so let's seal these parts right here. Okay, one thing I'm going to do is I noticed that the silicone had oozed out in the seam here a little bit. So I'm getting my paper towel, wiping that as much of that out as I can. Just because, years down the road, if a glob of that silicone comes loose, that'll be in your coolant system, can clog a radiator, heater core, whatever. So stuck the paper towel in there and wiping all the excess out. And these other holes for the water pump and I think these are the engine bracket. You can see the silicone kind of filling those up. So I'm getting Q-tips and just getting some of that excess out of the way. Like when you're putting the bolt in and you're threading it, it's going to thread into the silicone, even if there's a little on the threads anyways. But some of the bigger glob stuff can be a problem. So I'm just gonna clear those out a little bit, and then we should be good. I want to be able to at least get the threads started, and the bolt will take care of the rest from there. That one's kind of bad. There we go. Okay, cool. Now, gonna let it cure. Okay, it's the next day, and we're gonna install the oil seal at a 25mm deep socket. Seems to be just the right size because it's just barely smaller than this. You don't want your socket to get wedged into the hole too, so you get just barely smaller, but almost the exact same size. And I took some oil on my finger. It only lubricated the inside ring, but you want the outside dry. As much as you can help it, you want it going perfectly flat. Okay, so the oil seal is in. It just needs to be flush with the metal. That's the pulley bolt. But that's it for this episode, you guys. The engine pretty much is done. On the next episode, I'll be putting in the fuel injectors, the rail, and the valve cover, and then the extra peripherals, and then it's done. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.